Bruce Margot.
Well,
we did interview
We
Bruce.
did interview Bruce. Okay. What's that? Yeah, he didn't make, yeah.
So would there have been a mention of 925 if we had contributed?
Absolutely. I'm a huge fan of that band, and from the very beginning they were 9353. And huge fan, and from the very beginning, in fact, he was, I think, one of the first 10 people that we interviewed, and it was a great interview. Oh, that's a brilliant record right there.
He's in a lot of other documentaries as a talking head.
Bruce is?
2 or 3.
Oh, okay. Well, he's a great talking head. He just doesn't,
He didn't like what he
just
did.
didn't, yeah.
Well,
So
he decided he didn't want to participate before we even had anything.
This was years ago, before the film was even, he'd even seen
It's
it.
not like he saw it and said, "Oh, take me out." Like I don't know to this day if he's ever seen a minute of the film.
I don't think he'd want to, but they were a great band. So I'm trying to think if there were any other bands that we. I mean, obviously there are a lot of bands that weren't represented. I mean, I tried to, whether it was cover artwork or background music, whatever it was, I tried to represent as much of what was happening back then in the film. But it, you know, it's, as you can imagine, I mean, it's kind of hard.
Did you have any conflicting stories that you had to kind of sort out between splicing or whatever you did to? I'm sure you had.
Yeah, well, I think that's the funny part about doing something that took place 30 years ago. You know, I mean, everyone has, including me, I mean, everyone has their own version of, you know, it's like when you look at that Minor Threat show, you know, we talked to, I don't know how many people, that last Minor Threat show, we talked to so many different people, and everybody's version of what they saw was different. I mean, John Stapp said, and he went on and on about how he thought it was just out of control. The crowd was out of control, and he thought it was a sad. I think his exact words were, "It was really sad, right?"
It was really sad.
And
when I
was there.
We were doing those interviews. I was listening to what people were saying. I was like, I was at that show, and I thought it was fucking awesome. You know, I didn't think it was sad or weird. I mean, you know, so my take, and my friends that I went to that show with too they said the same thing. They're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, you know, I don't know, maybe it's if you were inside, like, you know.
Yeah, that part was fascinating, just hearing different people's takes on, and when you take something like Positive Force, for example, that was something, I mean, there were so many things that happened in that decade that were kind of polarizing, and I think for a lot of people, I think that it's what set DC apart from a lot of other scenes. I mean, between straight edge and, you know, emo and politics and all these things, everybody, you know, had an opinion, and I remember hearing all kinds of opinions back then, so I wanted that reflected in the film too, because you tend to hear one thing about, you know, you tend to hear, well, either DC was like all straight edge or, you know, all this or all that, and I wanted to show a couple different opinions.
I think someone early on said, well, how are you going to do it? Are you going to, like, you know, fact check and, you know, vet it and stuff? And I'm like, well, you know, as far as dates and stuff, we want to be factual, but as far as people's memories, you can't fact check people's memories. I mean, people are going to say things, and we just wanted to give everyone their minute to, you know. And then the truth is in there, and, you know.
I think if you have enough opinions reflected, then, like Jim said, the truth is in there. I think that there's a lot of revisionism that takes place, and so you have to be careful to not, you know, fall for too much of that. But for the most part, I think most people, I mean, you know, like with straight edge, you know, it was easy to find people that thought it was great, and then it was easy to find people that were like, well, no, this was really divisive, and so.
Did either of you ever play rat hockey behind the 930 Club?
I was never fortunate enough to, no, but I did know a lot of people that did.
I saw them and ran the other way.
Yeah, me too. I was little. project. Yeah, there's one about the rats in the alleyway I'm working on. No, I don't really. I'm just having fun with this and hoping to catch up on some sleep at some point.
Who are the most dangerous enemies of the scene? Did you get fucked with by? Did fans and showgoers get fucked with more by jocks, cops, or local murderers with guns in the street?
I think for me it was probably skinheads. That was what I remember. Jocks. I mean, you always knew where to find them. They were usually up front, like trying to like start a pit and just trying to start a fight. But skinheads were the ones that were a little out of. There was a period where it was like 80. Well, you saw in the film like 84, 85, 86. It was pretty dicey a lot of times at shows because there were a lot of them. But again, I was like 100 pounds, like soaking wet, so they didn't really mess with me. But
as you saw that photo of me from back in the film, I had long hair, and for a punk rocker, it wasn't really cool to have long hair. But I thought,
it looked good on you though.
I'm a real punk rocker because I'm going against the punk rockers because I had like long hair. But like it confused people, and people would be like, call me like, "Hey, Quaalude," you know, and I was like straight edge, you know. So I didn't even do drugs. So people were like, I was just getting. The jocks would call me Quaalude, and the hippies would call me a punk rocker, and like, yeah, so. Exactly.
Yeah.
Did you try to get in touch with Lefty or Wendell?
It's a great question. I tried for years. Yeah.
We actually found her.
I found her. I asked her. I mean, I don't know how many times, and she just wanted nothing to do with it. But she was a part of my experience. I mean, everyone. I mean, everybody that was there. She's larger than life in a lot of ways, and but yeah, I wanted nothing to do with the film. So, just too bad.
Go ahead.
We in fact worked on a whole chapter of the film where and just in case she's listening, she was, I mean, I had her represented really, like, you know, I had a lot of people saying she was great, and then I had a few people saying, you know, she was terrifying, and then there were people, you know, so it would have been very balanced, but Lefty was, yeah, I don't know where Lefty came. I don't know where the name came from, but she was a African American woman who was a Nazi skinhead, and yeah, just wrap your head around that for a second. But she was at every show, and kind of had a following, kind of like a Manson-like following.
There was one Oi kid that her and this like Oi kid would always hang out together, and whenever you just saw them by the bathroom, the old 930 or whatever, we were just like, you know, like walk around. And I ended up taking some. She was she drew too, and she drew these like skinhead guys, like, you know, and it said like, you know, punk's not dead or no surrender. And I actually took some of her art and made silk screens out of it, and you know. I didn't know if she was going to like beat me up for it, or like I asked her, but she thought it was cool, and she never really bothered me or my friends.
And Wendell, I did not reach out to, and I'll tell you about that off mic. But no, I do remember him though as a kid and seeing him with his walking stick. And, yeah, but yeah, I mean that was the thing. There were so many. Character, I mean, real characters back then, like, you know, Bruce, this guy Bruce, One Eye Bruce, and Lefty, and, I mean, you can't make this stuff up, you know, but yeah, they didn't make it into the film, but, Steve Squint, yeah, terrifying. Yeah, they were always nice to me, but again, I was no threat. So, although actually, there was one time I did I was doing the fanzine, and the city paper, the Washington City paper, interviewed me, And this was 1986, and they interviewed me, and they asked me about skinheads, and I said, well, I was 14, so I don't know what I was thinking, but I said, oh, skinheads are a joke, and everyone just laughs at them. And I remember it was the City Paper comes out on Thursdays, so it was Thursday night show at the 9:30 Club, and so there's a huge stack of City Papers in the hallway, and I was standing out front of the 9:30 Club, and I didn't know skinheads read, so I thought, I'd be all right.